The week before Christmas, 1934, Alessandro, while working as a laborer on a farm in the region of Asimo, received a surprising letter. It was from a priest friend in Corinaldo, inviting him there for the Christmas holidays. The letter contained train fare as well. On Christmas Eve, Alessandro knocked on this door. It was the street entrance to Our Lady of Sorrows Rectory in Corinaldo. The white-haired housekeeper turned on the hall light and opened the door. "Do you recognize me?" Alessandro asked her. "Yes, my son," came the reply. "Do you forgive me?" The white-haired housekeeper, Assunta Goretti, placed her hands on Alessandro's head. "Alessandro, Maria forgave you. Christ has forgiven you, and why should I not also forgive? I forgive you, of course, my son." It had been 32 years since they had last seen each other. Mama Assunta led Alessandro through the town, past the marble statue of Maria, to number 34 on the Via Borgo Mazzini. Christmas morning, during Holy Mass, the people of Corinaldo witnessed that which could only happen among the poor of Christ. Assunta Goretti, together with Alessandro Serenelli, the man who murdered her daughter, approached the altar rail and received Holy Communion side by side. At the time, Alessandro and Assunta were together in Corinaldo. Little did they know of the extraordinary discussion taking place in the Vatican concerning Maria. The canonical process for the investigation of Maria Goretti's sanctity was initiated during January 1935. A decade passed. Witnesses, including the family, testified about Maria's virtues before the postulator and Vatican officials, including the one they call the Devil's Advocate. Alessandro's testimony during all the proceedings proved to be most potent and precious in the eyes of the Church.
The slander against Saint Maria Goretti, Alessandro openly and officially withdrew it at the process for canonization when, with his hand on the gospel, he swore openly that Maria Goretti had not agreed to sin in that moment when he actually stabbed her. But he also confessed that even 2 times before that day of July 5th, 1902, he had tried to violate her and she had always refused with total rejection.
Among the countless miracles attributed through the intercession of Maria Goretti, only 2 were needed to complete her canonization process. Giuseppe Guppo of Rome, a stonecutter and poor day laborer with a wife and 4 children, had his right foot crushed by a falling boulder. The doctors had decided to amputate the injured foot. Unknown to them, his wife tucked a picture of Blessed Maria Goretti beneath the bandages on the injured leg. The following morning, May 8, 1947, there was no sign of injury, and his foot was normal enough for him to return to his heavy work. The second miracle was an instantaneous healing of a woman in Rome with pleurisy and water in her lungs. What occurred on June 24, 1950, has no parallel in the annals of the Holy Roman Catholic Church. More than 500,000 faithful gathered from all over the world to participate in the ultimate triumph of a little peasant girl's virtue. It was the first canonization that was ever held outside in St. Peter's Square. The basilica could not contain the mass of humanity that descended on Rome that day. And never has there been present at a canonization ceremony the mother of the saint. Maria's 4 siblings, Mariano, Ercilia, Teresa, and Angelo, attended the canonization ceremony with Mama Assunta. Also in attendance was the President of Italy, Luigi Einaudi. Alessandro Serenelli did not attend the canonization or beatification. A young Passionist priest from the United States was also in attendance.
At the canonization, the Holy Father came down And I remember how vividly it was. He stepped out on a platform and he said, "I've been forced by the piety of the whole world to leave the Basilica of St. Peter's, which for the first time in its glorious history is hopelessly inadequate to contain this demonstration of faith. And here, neath the blue vault of heaven, in the first ceremony of its kind, to raise to the altars a new patroness for youth and a model of purity in the world that has seemingly forgotten the meaning of purity and modesty." And then, as Pope Pius XII often did, he looked up from his prepared document and extemporized and said, "What this little girl did are you Christian people prepared to imitate?" And out of almost every throat, spontaneously, "We are!" You know, the Holy Father was so shaken and tears welled up in his eyes. You could see him wiping his face, and in the silence that followed, and we knew that he was moved to tears.
It was now the supreme moment. The Pope, wearing the mitre, sat on the throne in his supreme authority of doctor and head of the Church, and pronounced the sanctity of Maria Goretti.
In honor of the Holy and Indivisible Trinity, for the exaltation of the Catholic faith and the increase of the Christian religion, by the authority of our Lord Jesus Christ, of the holy apostles Peter and Paul, and by our own, after mature deliberation, ever imploring the divine assistance, by the advice of venerable brethren, the cardinals of the Holy Roman Church, the patriarchs, archbishops, and bishops present in the Eternal City, we decree and define as saint, and we inscribe in the catalogue of saints the Blessed Maria Goretti.
4 years after Maria's canonization, surrounded by her family, Mama Assunta died on October 8, 1954 at Carinaldo. Alessandro Serenelli, who had become her adopted son through the most bizarre circumstances, was also at her bedside. A picture of Maria was on her nightstand. Only 5 years after Assunta's death, because of his own failing health, Alessandro came here to the Capuchins Monastery in Macerata for aged and infirmed religious. One day, he became very ill after falling down the monastery steps. As he lay dying, he kept next to him a picture of his victim. This is a copy of a note Alessandro scribbled out. It is a plea for mercy, but also a note of warning to the world. I ask pardon of the world of the outrage done to the martyr Maria Goretti, and to purity. I exhort everyone to keep away from immoral shows, from dangers, from occasions that can lead to sin. Signed, Alessandro Serenelli. According to the Capuchin fathers, who gave the last rites and were with him those final hours, he said, I have suffered enormously for killing a saint. But now I have paid my debt. I have found hope and light. I have found redemption, and now I will again be with little Maria in heaven. Death came to Alessandro Serenelli in this room at Macerata on May 7, 1970, at the age of 88. He is buried in the same cemetery as the brothers and priests of the Capuchin order. To honor Corinaldo, the Goretti family gave permission for Maria's right arm to be enshrined beneath the altar of St. Maria Goretti Church. It was the arm with which Maria sought to defend herself from Alessandro's fury. Maria Goretti had a face to match the beauty of her character. This original portrait was painted by a nun from an exact description given by Assunta Goretti. Mama Assunta later said it was the most accurate and a true likeness of her saintly daughter. The original now hangs in the room at Orsenigo Hospital in Nettuno, where Maria died, now a chapel. Today, The old cheese factory in Le Ferriere is a Catholic preschool for children. The room upstairs where Maria was killed is also a chapel in her honor. The remains of Maria Goretti are encased in a wax image, which rests in this crypt at Our Lady of Grace Shrine in Nettuno. Since 1902, Maria Goretti has been exalted in art, literature, and music. Her story has circled the globe, being translated into every language including Arabic and Chinese. Truly, since the short life and valiant death of Maria Goretti, Nettuno and the world have never been the same.